Chapter 91 Annihilation of the Falling Star Mountains in One Strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qing Qian said dubiously, really? Qin Buyi lied without blushing at all. If it's fake, of course it's true. I believe you. Qing Qian said. Seeing Qin Buyi's joking expression, Qing Qian knew that she had been fooled. Tianhuang sword technique. Tianhuang sword domain. Qing Qian's whole body's spiritual power poured into her hand with the crimson sword. The crimson sword emitted streaks of sword light, covering the entire Luoxing mountain range. Countless monsters in the falling star mountains lay on the ground shivering. The scenery in front of Qin Buyi changed, although he was still in the Luoxing mountains. Everything as far as the eye could see was crimson. Qing Qian sneered and said, "This is the strongest move I have learned in my life. You can go on your way with peace of mind." Qin Buyi, who was in the sword domain, felt a sense of oppression gathering from all directions. Qin Buyi, sword domain. I have one too. Killing life and death realm. That the dark realm centered on Qin Buyi and quickly spread to the Luoxing mountains. It overlaps with Qing Qian's Tianhuang sword domain. Qing Qian exclaimed again, how come you have a realm? This is a unique symbol that only exists in the tribulation realm. Qin Buyi said calmly, the unique symbol of the tribulation realm? Oh, I seem to be able to do it in the nascent soul realm. Qing Qian denied it. It can't be cheated. It's absolutely impossible. No one can own a domain in the nascent soul realm. Since ancient times, there have been very few people who can possess fields in the fusion realm, and they are all geniuses. Qing Qian asked tentatively in confusion, are you really the reincarnation of an ancient power? Qin Buyi, if you can survive my attack, I will tell you. Kill, annihilate. A blood moon rose in the dark realm, covering the falling star mountains. Countless phantoms of killing blades condensed in the blood moon, killing Qing Qian one after another. Killing and slaughtering. Qin Buyi held the high-speed vibrating killing blade and slashed at Qing Qian with all his strength. Boom! Qing Qian's body was attacked by the phantom of the killing blade from all directions. Qin Buyi faced him with another full blow. Qing Qian shouted, Tianhuang sword technique, shock. The crimson sword light enveloped Qing Qian. The high-speed vibrating killing blade fell on Qing Qian. Boom! Qing Qian fell from the sky to the ground at an extremely fast speed. A pit appeared on the ground that was hundreds of meters in diameter and tens of meters deep. The attack did not stop. The giant-like Qin Buyi held the small mountain-sized killing blade and continued to slash downwards. At the critical moment, Qing Qian bites the tip of her tongue, burning the essence and blood. Tianhuang sword technique escape. Qing Qian could barely avoid the attack and flew away. Boom! 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 The killing blade slashed at the ground, cutting open the ground like cutting tofu. The ground collapsed rapidly, and Qin Buyi withdrew the killing blade. Where he was struck just now, a large crater several kilometers wide appeared. In the center of the pit, groundwater continued to flow out and soon gathered into a small lake. Qing Qian looked at the small lake on the ground, feeling frightened for a while. If this knife struck her, even she would have to pay a heavy price to survive. Qin Buyi's attack continued. Kill, annihilate, kill immortals. This is the first time Qin Buyi uses annihilation and immortal killing together. Clank. Zheng. The blade of the killing blade emitted bursts of sword sounds, and the sword sounds were continuous. The blade became extremely black, exuding strong killing intent, and a blood-red streak appeared in the center of the blade. Qing Qian felt the powerful killing intent on the killing blade and said in shock, what kind of sword technique is this? How can it be so powerful? Escape. Invincible. Qing Qian threw away all the distracting thoughts in her mind, leaving only one thought, that is to escape from Qin Buyi's attack. She had a premonition that if she was attacked by Qin Buyi, she would definitely die. Qin Buyi slashed out two swords in an instant, and two sword lights appeared. A sword light is half tangible and half invisible. The other blade was extremely dark and exuded an extremely domineering aura. The two sword lights locked on Qing Qian and quickly attacked Qing Qian. On the way, the two sword lights intertwined with each other like two dragons and began to merge. Almost instantly, the two sword lights merged into one dark sword light with a hint of blood red. Whoosh! The speed of the sword light increased greatly, and he caught up with the fleeing Qing Qian in just one breath. Qing Qian looked back at the sword light that was so close, and said in a desperate voice, "No." Boom! 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 Qin Buyi heard Qing Qian's desperate voice, and there was no sign of mercy. The other party is here to kill him, and being kind to the enemy is cruel to oneself. The sword light fell on Qing Qian without mercy. Qing Qian's body was torn into pieces in an instant, and the sword light kept slashing at the Luoxing mountain range. Boom! The entire mountain range began to shake. Boom! The Luoxing mountain range was cut open like tofu by the knife, split in two from the middle, and turned into two halves. Boom! The sword light is still attacking deep into the Luoxing mountain range. Viewed from above the Luoxing mountain range, a large, dark hole was ripped out of the Luoxing mountain range. The sword light slashed thousands of meters underground in the Luoxing mountain range before it stopped. Boom! The sword light did not dissipate, but exploded in all directions, erupting with dazzling light. For a time, the cave entrance thousands of meters deep was like daylight under the strong light. The falling star mountains are constantly shaking. Under the strong light, the cave entrance, which was several kilometers long, began to disappear little by little, and spread towards the periphery at an extremely fast speed. In a few breaths, 1/3 of the falling star mountain range had disappeared. After a dozen breaths, the entire Luoxing mountain range disappeared. The original location of Luoxing mountain range became a bottomless abyss. From the edge of the abyss, you can still vaguely see traces of the falling star mountain range. Is this the combination of annihilation and immortal killing? It's so powerful. Qin Buyi looked down and murmured, his expression full of shock. Qin Buyi himself did not expect this outcome. In the past, I could not feel the true meaning of annihilation from the words, but now the entire falling star mountain range disappeared before my eyes. Qin Buyi truly felt the meaning of annihilation in erasing spirit and matter. If the annihilation pair alone cannot achieve this terrifying effect, it can be paired with the extremely domineering sword technique of killing. Immortals, the sum of the two sides is not that 1 + 1 is greater than 2, but just like the little king and the big king in Do Di Zhu, when combined together, they become Wang Jia. Looking at the place where Qing Qian was torn apart by the sword light just now, Qin Buyi wondered, is he really dead? The reason why he was confused was because he was in Qin Buyi's spiritual perception just now. The process of killing Qing Qian was too easy. The most important thing is that the sword light fell on Qing Qian at that time. Although Qing Qian's body was torn apart, it felt like it was chopped into the air. Qin Buyi, I will fight you. Go to hell. Tianhuang Sword Technique, Tianhuang Sword Domain. Chapter 92 Qing Qian Cries, Lian Snorts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Qing Qian's voice, Qin Buyi was not too surprised and said to himself, he's really not dead. Qing Qian was holding a crimson sword behind Qin Buyi and attacked Qin Buyi. The expressions on the face are very exciting, including anger, fear, shock. Just now, she saw something. The entire Luoxing mountain range disappeared before her eyes. It was disappearing, not destroyed. Even the scum that disappeared cannot be found, as if someone had wiped it out of this world. If she hadn't used the extremely costly secret technique of the Ninetails clan, she would have been wiped out along with the falling star mountain range. Qing Qian suddenly felt that seeking revenge on Qin Buyi was a wrong decision for Qin Buyi's behavior of not holding back at all. Qin Buyi turned to look at Qing Qian, pretended to use the annihilation sword technique, and shouted, "Kill and annihilate." Whoosh! Qing Qian was like a frightened bird, ignoring the attack and quickly fled into the distance. After a few breaths, Qing Qian didn't feel the wave of attacks behind her, so she stopped and turned around to look. Qin Buyi looked at her with a joking expression on his face. Qing Qian was angry, and shouted softly, "Qin Buyi, you are shameless." Qin Buyi, killing and scattering souls. Qing Qian stood on the spot and said without moving away, "To borrow a sentence, you said, the same trick will not work on me." The killing blade of dozens of feet quickly became the size of a palm. Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts and the death aura from the dark realm poured into the killing blade. The killing blade was half golden and half dark, and it was killing Qing Qian. Qing Qian came to Qing Qian in the blink of an eye, but Qing Qian had no time to react. The killing blade pierced Qing Qian's sea of consciousness. Qing Qian was stunned for a moment and cursed, "Holy crap. Are you serious?" Qin Buyi pointed to the ruins of the Luoxing mountain range that had disappeared and said, "I never played tricks with you from the beginning. I really wanted to kill you." Qing Qian was speechless for a long time, and she suddenly felt that what Qin Buyi said made sense. Not daring to hesitate at all, Qing Qian quickly controlled the crimson sword to defend herself. Tianhuang sword technique, divine control. A huge force came from the clear sea of consciousness, firmly controlling the killing blade in place, facing the same trick. This time the killing blade was blessed with the breath of death from the dark realm. The blade stabbed forward with difficulty. Seeing that the killing blade was about to break through his defense, Qing Qian felt a little panicked. Only the divine control in her hand can withstand the divine attack of the killing blade. The effect of other methods on spiritual attacks is basically close to zero. Zheng. The killing blade made a sound as it pierced Qing Qian's sea of consciousness's defense with great difficulty. Laugh. The killing blade that is freed from restraint is like a wild horse roaming the territory, constantly attacking in the clear sea of consciousness. Boom! 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 Qing Qian's ears were like a cannon blasting, and the roaring sound was continuous. The clear sea of consciousness soon became like a spider web, riddled with holes. Qing Qian gritted her teeth and couldn't care less. The sea of consciousness was one of the most important things for a cultivator. Once broken, it will have a huge impact on the cultivator. Secret technique of the nine tails, tail cutting. A shadow of a nine-tailed white fox rose behind Qing Qian. The difference is that this nine-tailed white fox only has 8 tails. Crack. A soft sound came, and the nine-tailed white fox lost one of its 8 tails. Qing Qian appeared very far away from Qin Buyi like a golden cicada taking off its shell. A white fluffy tail and a palm-sized killing blade were left in the original clear position. Qin Buyi stretched out his hand to recall the killing blade, which again became dozens of sizes in Qin Buyi's hands. Looking at the white fluffy tail, Qin Buyi said, "Is this the method you used to escape just now?" Qing Qian had no intention of paying any attention to Qin Buyi and looked at Qin Buyi angrily. Qin Buyi saw that Qing Qian ignored him and stopped talking. He held the killing blade and was about to attack Qing Qian again. Suddenly, Qing Qian squatted down on the spot, hugged her knees with her hands, buried her head on her knees, and said with a cry in her voice, "Qin Buyi, you little thief, you almost killed me just now, do you know?" Qin Buyi stopped his offensive, looked at Qing Qian with confusion, and asked tentatively, "What kind of drama are you singing in again?" Qing Qian. "Qin Buyi, apart from bullying women, what else can you do? Can't your emotional intelligence be higher? Has your brain been made stupid by practicing?" Qin Buyi said blankly, "You were the one who said you wanted to kill me first. Of course I will kill you. I can't let you really kill me. I was just joking. My purpose was to scare you and make you return the things to me. Who would have thought that your fighting ability is so high? And you are so scary." The more Qing Qian spoke, the more aggrieved she became. Her eyes were red and tears fell from her eyes. He pointed with both hands at the vanishing ruins of the Luoxing mountain range below and gestured, "Such a big Luoxing mountain range, you can kill it with just one strike. My nine-tailed fox clan only grows one tail every 1,000 years. 2 of your tails were used to kill me under your 2 fatal attacks. If it weren't for the talent of the nine-tailed fox clan, I would have died at your hands twice now. Are you still a human being?" Qin Buyi saw Qing Qian crying and Lihua Daiyu stood there not knowing what to say, and both sides fell into silence, looking at the Tangtang Luoxing mountains. The giant fox demon king, whose cultivation has reached the tribulation realm, is in front of him. Qin Buyi felt that if this scene was seen by others, no one would believe it. Qin Buyi racked his brains to think about how to make Qing Qian stop crying. But he couldn't come up with any good ideas, so he could only say, "Hey, Qing Qian, are you still fighting?" Qing Qian cried even more when she heard what Qin Buyi said, and said, Beat you, you big-headed devil. Isn't your mind full of fighting and killing all day long?" After hearing Qing Qian's words not to fight, Qin Buyi stopped using the magic of heaven and earth, and his figure quickly returned to normal state. At the same time, the killing blade returned to normal state. Then what do you want to do? Qin Buyi asked. Qing Qian said nothing, crying alone in the distance like a weak woman who was bullied. Qin Buyi tentatively said, how about I return your things to you and stop crying? As soon as she finished speaking, Qing Qian stood up, her face full of tears. Qin Buyi thought Qing Qian agreed, but just as he was about to speak, Qing Qian flew away very quickly. The voice stayed in Qin Buyi's ears, I will get the things back by myself, please keep them for me first. I will really kill you next time we meet, so be prepared. Finally, Qin Buyi, remember, you kill me twice, you owe me 2 lives. After hearing what Qing Qian said, Qin Buyi felt a little baffled. He stood there and watched Qing Qian disappear from his sight, and said in confusion. It's inexplicable. This time you took the initiative to find me and said you wanted to kill me. Then you said you didn't really want to kill me. He just left and said there would be a next time. Qin Buyi raised the killing blade in his hand and said to the killing blade, Lian, do you think this woman is incomprehensible? That the killing blade vibrated slightly, and Lian's cold snort sounded in Qin Buyi's ears. Listening to Lian's cold snort, Qin Buyi felt that Lian was not in a very good mood. Just like Monk Zhang was confused, Qin Buyi murmured, what happened today? Chapter 93 Ying's Situation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Crack crack. That applause came from a distance, and Ying's figure emerged. Ying looked at Qin Buyi with a smile on his face. Brother Qin, your cultivation has improved rapidly in the past few years since you went out to practice. Qin Buyi had long known that Ying had arrived when he and Qing Qian were fighting. Watching the battle in secret, Qin Buyi said modestly. Brother Ying laughed. Ying did not hesitate to praise him at all, saying, if I weren't sure that the breath was Brother Qin's, I wouldn't dare to admit it. Annihilate the entire Luoxing mountain range with one sword. Brother Qin can be regarded as a master in our Ming dynasty. To welcome Brother Qin back this time, I specially ordered a banquet to be held in the palace of the city lord of Qingyang City. We will go there and chat while eating. Qin Buyi, okay. The two of them headed all the way to the city lord's palace in Qingyang City. On the way, Qin Buyi looked at Ying with his probing eyes. The cultivation level of Ying in the early stage of crossing the tribulation realm was revealed in front of Qin Buyi. Is this also the realm of overcoming the tribulation? Qin Buyi secretly thought. The two came to the city lord's mansion. Huang Yan, the new city lord of Qingyang City, quickly stepped forward and saluted Ying and said, I have met the third prince. Ying waved his hand and said, no courtesy, no courtesy. Huang Yan said respectfully, third prince, the banquet has been prepared. Please come here. Ying looked at Qin Buyi and said with a smile, Brother Qin, please. Qin Buyi, Brother Ying, you're welcome. Entering the hall of the city lord's palace, Qin Buyi and Ying sat down. Huang Yan stood aside and waited carefully, and at the same time cautiously said to Ying, Third prince, I have something to report. Ying, city lord Huang, please speak. Huang Yan, just before the third prince arrived, an extremely terrifying black sword light flew over Qingyang City. Fortunately, this sword light did not fall in Qingyang City. Otherwise Qingyang City would have been destroyed by at least 1/3. Third prince, would you like to send someone to investigate? Ying explained, there is no need to explore, the master who slashed this sword light is right in front of you. Huang Yan asked doubtfully, could it be that the black sword light was struck by His Highness the third prince? Ying shook his head, looked at Qin Buyi and said, this sword light was struck by Brother Qin. Huang Yan was a little surprised. Looking at Qin Buyi who was restrained, he quickly said, it turns out that it was Mr. Qin who cut it. Forgive me for my blindness. Qin Buyi, it doesn't matter. At this time, the soldiers from the city lord's palace came to the door and looked at Huang Yan carefully. Huang Yan looked at the soldier's appearance and knew in his heart that there must be something he needed to deal with. He said to Qin Buyi and Ying, Third prince, Mr. Qin, please excuse me for a moment. Ying, go ahead. After Huang Yan left, Ying looked Qin Buyi up and down. Qin Buyi was a little frightened when Ying saw him, and said, "Brother Ying, is there something wrong?" Ying looked at Qin Buyi and said, "I still can't believe it. It's only been a few years. Brother Qin actually broke through from the nascent soul realm to the fusion realm, and his combat power was enough to repel the giant fox demon emperor in the early stages of the tribulation. I'm afraid that if we really take action now, I may not be Brother Qin's opponent." Qin Buyi said, "Brother Ying is so humble." Qin Buyi felt a strong aura of danger from Ying, and if he really took action, the outcome of the two would probably be, dash, dash, dash. If you really want to defeat Ying, you can only wait for Qin Buyi to improve further. Ying has been in a good mood ever since he saw Qin Buyi's true fighting prowess. At this time, he even had a smile on his face and said, "Brother Qin, the stronger your cultivation is, the better, Come on, don't just talk, eat food and drink." After drinking for 3 rounds, Ying's eyes were a little blurry and he said, "Brother Qin, what are your plans when you come back this time?" Qin Buyi did not hide anything and said directly, "Thank you to Brother Ying for the spiritual stone. I came back this time just to help Brother Ying. If Brother Ying needs me, just ask." Ying patted Qin Buyi on the shoulder and said sincerely, "Brother Qin values love and righteousness. I really did not misjudge the person at the beginning. I'm dissatisfied with Brother Qin. I need help at this time, especially a master with extraordinary combat power like Brother Qin." Speaking of this, Ying sighed quietly and said, "In recent years, more and more people in the government and the public have supported Big Brother. Even those forces that were originally neutral have also turned to Big Brother. I am the only one among these princes who can pose a threat to the eldest brother. The eldest brother has always regarded me as a thorn in his side. If he really succeeds to the throne this time, I'm afraid the first thing he will do after he ascends the throne is to kill me." Qin Buyi nodded and said, "Brother Ying, do you have any strategies to break the situation?" Ying drank a glass of wine and looked around to make sure no one was eavesdropping outside. He whispered in Qin Buyi's ear, "Of course there are strategies to break the situation. The eldest brother has a domineering personality, and he is supported and favored by his father. He is headstrong and willful. Contrary to my elder brother, I always advocate benevolent governance and never criticize my subordinates harshly. Many people in the government and the public are angry at Big Brother but dare not speak out. Although they obey Big Brother on the surface, they are already full of resentment in their hearts. Now we only need an opportunity to arouse the resentment in these people's hearts. By then, Big Brother's power will inevitably be damaged, and I can take the opportunity to absorb these forces. Come and fight against Big Brother." Qin Buyi wondered, could it be that the strategy mentioned by Brother Ying to break the situation can only reach the point of fighting in separate chambers? Ying looked bitter and said, "In the early years, I was evenly matched with my eldest brother, but in recent years, the Ming dynasty has been troubled internally and externally. The war in the north bordering the great Qin dynasty is even more intense and has been going on for several years. Father has believed over the years that in the autumn of war, only people with a personality like my eldest brother can control the situation. As for my character, my father thinks it is more suitable in the prosperous times. So with the support of my father, the number of forces supporting me in the court has become less and less in recent years, and the situation has reached a precarious level. If the plan I just mentioned is successfully implemented, it will take some time away from the Big Brother to develop and stabilize the situation." After Qin Buyi listened to what Ying said, he lowered his head and fell into thinking. After a while, Qin Buyi looked up at Ying and said, "Brother Ying, if the eldest prince is killed, can you control the situation?" Ying didn't even think about it and said subconsciously, "Of course I can control the situation." Suddenly, Ying reacted, looked at Qin Buyi in surprise and said, "You mean?" Just as Ying was thinking, Qin Buyi nodded. "It's impossible. My elder brother's own cultivation has reached the level of overcoming the tribulation, and he has a powerful Mahayana realm man by his side who protects him personally. Brother Qin's combat prowess is undeniable. He is able to fight through the tribulation state in the combined state. He is also a rare existence in the Ming dynasty. But Brother Qin's cultivation is not enough after all. I'm afraid that not only will he not be hurt, but he will be involved in it. This matter cannot be rushed. I believe that with Brother Qin's talent, he will be able to do it given time. What we have to do now is to develop in a low-key manner. Chapter 94 Ming Imperial City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Buyi didn't expect that the other party was so powerful, and that there was a strong man in the Mahayana realm beside him to protect him. Thinking of this, Qin Buyi couldn't help but glance at Ying Zhigao in front of him. Under such a disparity in strength, it is not easy for Yingji to barely maintain the situation. Qin Buyi asked, Brother Yingji, how long can you hold on to the current situation? Yingji thought for a while and said, if the strategy one just mentioned to break the situation is effective, it can last for 3 years. Qin Buyi, what if it doesn't work? Yingji smiled bitterly and said, then there is only 1 year. If the northern Qin dynasty presses hard, the time will be even shorter. Qin Buyi said, Brother Yingji, don't worry, I will help you kill the eldest prince within a year. When Yingji heard Qin Buyi's words, he was filled with disbelief. Qin Buyi's face was firm, so he couldn't say much, so he could only say, I believe Brother Qin. When Yingji finished saying this, he suddenly had a feeling that Qin Buyi really seemed to be able to do it. With this thought in his mind, Yingji shook his head and thought to himself, I am really drunk, how could I have such unrealistic ideas? When the banquet ended, it was already midnight. Yingji and Qin Buyi drank to express their depression. They did not use spiritual energy to relieve the alcohol, and became drunk until they were unconscious. Although Qin Buyi drank a lot, he was sober. His spiritual thoughts scanned the body, and the remaining trace of drunkenness disappeared immediately. Ding, the epic mission is triggered. Go to the imperial capital and become the strongest person in the Ming dynasty within 1 year. Failure obliterates. Task reward, attribute points, the golden light of the 89 mysterious powers. The system prompt sounded in Qin Buyi's ears. Looking at the mission just released, Qin Buyi looked at Yingji who was sleeping soundly on the table and said, Brother Yingji, it seems that your throne is almost certain. Although the mission has nothing to do with Yingji, Qin Buyi has become the strongest person in the Ming dynasty, so it is easy to help Yingji ascend to the throne. The next day, the sun rose. Yingji woke up slowly while lying on the table, looking around. His mind was in a daze, mobilizing the spiritual power to circulate along the body. Within a few breaths, all the drunkenness on Yingji's body dissipated, and his mind became clear. Yingji woke up and just stood up. Qin Buyi opened the door and walked in. He saw Yingji waking up and said, Brother Yingji, you're awake. Yingji nodded and said, Brother Qin laughed at me when I was drunk last night. Qin Buyi said, Brother Yingji, what are you talking about? Everyone has depression in their hearts. Why not dissipate it with the help of wine? Brother Qin makes sense. Yingji said with a smile. Yingji and Qin Buyi walked out of the room and met Huang Yan who was coming. Huang Yan's face looked a little strange, and he seemed hesitant to speak when facing Yingji. Yingji said, Lord Huang, what's the matter? Huang Yan looked at Yingji and glanced at Qin Buyi secretly, and said, Third Prince, the Luoxing mountain range has disappeared. Judging from the traces left on the scene, it seems as if it was wiped out by someone. My subordinate came here specifically to report this matter to the Third Prince. There was no room for Huang Yan to delay. As the lord of a city, it was definitely not a small matter for the mountains beside the city to disappear. If he doesn't report it in time, Huang Yan will definitely be miserable when the superiors investigate. Yingji said, I already know about this, so you don't need to worry about it in the future. After saying that, Yingji waved his hand, implying that Huang Yan should leave. Huang Yan bowed his hands and said, Thank you, Third Prince. I will leave now. After leaving, Huang Yan thought of Qin Buyi standing with Yingji, and thought to himself. Where did the Third Prince find such a master? He actually destroyed the entire Luoxing mountain range. It's really terrifying. This matter must be reported to the eldest prince as soon as possible so that the eldest prince can take precautions. After Huang Yan left last night, he learned about the disappearance of Luoxing mountain range, went to the Luoxing mountains ruins overnight to survey the situation, but when he actually arrived at the Luoxing Mountains, Wang Yan was so shocked by the scene that he couldn't speak for a long time. Ying and Qin Buyi did not stay too long in Qingyang City. In the meantime, Ying took Qin Buyi to the Wang's house. After arriving at the Wang's house, he briefly reminisced about old times and left in a hurry. On the contrary, when Wang Zong of the Wang family learned about Qin Buyi's cultivation, his eyes were as big as copper bells. Looking at Qin Buyi was like looking at a monster, and it took a long time to calm down the shock. After leaving the Wang family, the two of them sped towards the imperial capital. With Qin Buyi's current level of cultivation, he could reach several miles away in 1 second by running with all his strength. Even so, the two of them flew for nearly 2 hours to reach the imperial capital. Qin Buyi was a little confused as to how Ying had arrived at the Luoxing Mountains from the imperial capital in such a short period of time. Perhaps sensing Qin Buyi's doubts, Ying asked, "Brother Qin is curious about how I got to the Luoxing Mountains before." Qin Buyi did not deny what he was thinking and said, "Yes." Ying explained, "Use teleportation arrays, which can be large or small. Large teleportation arrays can help practitioners cross the stars to reach another world. As for the small teleportation arrays, there are many differences. Some of them can allow practitioners to instantly reach the other side from one side of the world. The teleportation array I use falls into this category." Qin Buyi's doubts were cleared, and Qin Buyi was definitely no stranger to teleportation. With the help of the system, he has teleported back and forth many times, even for long-distance teleportation between Blue Star and Tianhuang Realm. Qin Buyi also experienced a round trip, but Qin Buyi had never seen the teleportation array before. After listening to Ying's explanation, Qin Buyi had a completely new understanding of the methods of cultivators. Ying continued, "When I have time, I will show Brother Qin the teleportation array." Arrive. The Ming Emperor appeared in sight. The imperial city stands between heaven and earth, tens of thousands of miles away. The soldiers guarding the imperial city all had murderous expressions on their faces, and their eyes were like eagles, staring at the people passing by below the city. The city bricks made of bluestone on the city wall reveal the vicissitudes of life and simplicity. Ying explained on the side, "This is the capital of our Ming dynasty, with hundreds of millions of people living there all year round. Isn't it very impressive?" Everyone who sees the Ming dynasty capital for the first time is shocked by it. Qin Buyi withdrew his shocked gaze and thought to himself, if the Ming dynasty were moved to Blue Star, the area would be as large as a country. Ying, "Brother Qin, there will be plenty of time to see things in the future. Now go to my house first." Outside the imperial city, many cultivators dropped from the air at a certain distance from the imperial city and walked into the city. Qin Buyi asked, "Shall we go down now?" Ying smiled slightly and said, "The Ming Emperor does not allow flying. That is for people below the tribulation realm. Brother Qin, follow me." Chapter 95 Daming College. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ying flew in front, followed closely by Qin Buyi. Arriving at the top of the Ming dynasty imperial city, when the guards saw Ying, they all knelt down and saluted, saying, "I have met the third prince." Ying stretched out his hand and said, "No courtesy." The soldier stood up from the ground, looked at Qin Buyi who was also flying behind Ying, and said, "Third prince, the emperor does not allow flying below the level of crossing the tribulation. The young master behind you has not yet reached the level of crossing the tribulation. You see," Ying said, "this is a guest in my house, so you don't have to abide by this rule." The soldier did not retreat at all. "Third prince, the rules cannot be broken." Ying squinted his eyes, looked at the soldier and said word by word, "Didn't you hear clearly what I just said?" The soldier said seriously, "Back to the third prince." The eldest prince specially emphasized this rule before and asked the third prince not to embarrass me. When Ying heard this, his expression suddenly darkened and he said, "Okay, very good, it won't work for me now, will it?" Ying took out a golden token with a golden dragon carved on it from his arms and threw it to the soldiers. Whoosh! The golden token drew an arc in the air and flew toward the soldiers at extremely fast speeds. The soldier stretched out his hand to catch the golden token, and a huge force came from the golden token. Boom, boom, boom. The soldier couldn't help but take a few steps back, his breath was confused, his face turned pale, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Stopping, the soldier looked at the token with a golden dragon engraved on the front and 4 characters "I am here" in person engraved on the back. Immediately he knelt down on his knees, holding the token in both hands and placing it above his head. Ying said in a bad tone, "Sir, soldier, can the rules be changed now?" The soldier's body was shaking like chaff, and he said, "Yes, Your Highness the Third Prince, please come in." Reaching out to take back the golden token, Ying said to Qin Buyi, "Brother Qin, please." Ying was very unhappy now, being embarrassed by a small soldier guarding the city. He was even more embarrassed in front of Qin Buyi. He pretended to be nonchalant and talked and laughed with Qin Buyi when he came to the prince's residence. It was less than a quarter of an hour after Ying and Qin Buyi left. Nan Tianlong led a group of guards to him. Nan Tianlong said, "This person colluded with foreigners and tried to undermine the stability of our Ming dynasty. Kill him." The soldier no longer looked like he was making things difficult for Ying just now. His face was pale and he said, "My lord, I am unjust." Nan Tianlong ignored the soldier's shouts and drew out his long knife. The sword fell from his hand, and the soldiers' heads fell to the ground. Nan Tianlong looked at the soldiers' heads and whispered, "Those who don't know life and death, do you think that by joining the service of the eldest prince, they can provoke the third prince unscrupulously?" Nan Tianlong glanced at the other soldiers around him and pointed out, "If anything like this happens again, they will all be killed." Other soldiers on the city wall lowered their heads and did not dare to speak. As the saying goes, the king of hell is aggressive and the devil is difficult to deal with. It was shameful for Ying to argue with the soldier, so he sent his subordinate Nan Tianlong to deal with the matter. On the one hand, it is to establish authority and send signals to others. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. On the other hand, it was natural to vent his anger. The dignified third prince of the Ming dynasty was being made difficult by the soldiers guarding the city. How could he be let go so easily? Behind Nan Tianlong, the guards of the prince's mansion quickly cleaned up the body. After Nan Tianlong completed his mission, he turned around and left with a group of people. After Nan Tianlong left, other soldiers guarding the city said one after another, "I have long disliked Wang Er. Do you think that with the protection of the eldest prince, you will be invincible in the world? You really don't know how to live or die. You don't even give the third prince face. He deserves to die. The third prince is also a ruthless master. It seems that we should be more careful when seeing him in the future. Oh, which one of these princes is a simple person? But now only the third prince is still competing with the eldest prince for the throne. How can such a person be simple?" In the third prince's residence, the third prince said to Qin Buyi, "Brother Qin, this will be Brother Qin's home from now on. The courtyard has been tidied up for Brother Qin." Qin Buyi raised his hand and said, "Brother Ying, I have heard about the name of Daming Academy for a long time. I wonder if I can ask Brother Ying to fill a vacant position for me in Daming Academy." Daming Academy, the best academy in the Ming dynasty, gathering the top talents in the Ming dynasty. It provides countless talents in various fields to the Ming dynasty every year. The above information was collected by Qin Buyi after entering the Imperial city and spreading his spiritual thoughts. It is certainly comfortable to stay in the third prince's residence, but this comfort is not what Qin Buyi needs. The system task was only given 1 year, becoming the strongest person in the Ming dynasty within 1 year means that Qin Buyi needs to continuously break through the Tribulation realm and the Mahayana realm during this period to achieve both realms. The time left for Qin Buyi was very tight, and it was obviously impossible to break through to the Mahayana realm in the third prince's house. Therefore, Qin Buyi needed to find a place where he could quickly obtain cultivation resources, and Daming Academy was the best choice. After Ying heard Qin Buyi's words, his eyes lit up and he said, "Brother Qin, you mean you want to go to Daming Academy? That's easy, haha." Qin Buyi was a little puzzled by Ying's performance and asked, "Why is Brother Ying so happy?" Ying replied, "Brother Qin doesn't know that Ming Academy has been the foundation of the Ming dynasty since ancient times. If Brother Qin can stand out in the academy, it will make us fight against Big Brother's forces with much less pressure. With Brother Qin's cultivation and qualifications, being an ordinary teacher at Daming Academy is definitely a talentless one. Why don't you let me introduce Brother Qin to Daming Academy as a senior tutor? After Yingji explained, Qin Buyi understood what a senior tutor was, just like a graduate tutor at Blue Star University. However, it is much easier than being a graduate tutor at Blue Star. You only need to tutor a few students every year, Qin Buyi said. Everything is at the discretion of Brother Yingji. Yingji worked vigorously and resolutely. After talking to Qin Buyi about the matter, he walked out of the prince's mansion to handle the matter. He didn't come back until the afternoon. When he came back, Yingji didn't look very good. Qin Buyi saw this and asked, "Brother Yingji, what happened?" Yingji replied angrily, I didn't expect that eldest brother's power would expand so quickly. Even the Daimyo Academy has almost all been included in eldest brother's bag. After saying that, Yingji said to Qin Buyi with a look of shame on his face, "Brother Qin, those old stubborns at Daming Academy said at first that you had an unknown origin and refused to let you become a tutor at Daming Academy. Later, after I argued hard, those old stubborns relented, but made a request. To become a tutor at Daimyo Academy, you need to pass 3 rounds of tests. It's really unreasonable. In the past, my eldest brother recommended others to become tutors at Daming Academy. Why didn't these old stubborns put up any conditions? Brother Qin, don't be anxious. After I deal with it a little more, I will definitely let Brother Qin enter Daming Academy and become a senior tutor in less than a month." Chapter 96 Admission Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1 month is too long for Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi is now pressed for time and must make full use of every minute. Qin Buyi said, "Brother Yingji, isn't it just 3 rounds of tests?" I agreed. Yingji advised, "Brother Qin, these stubborn old men will definitely not let you pass, and they may even use trippers to kill you secretly. I suggest you wait patiently for a month. During this month, I will accompany Brother Qin to visit the Imperial City and familiarize him with the customs of the Imperial City." Qin Buyi said without any fear on his face, "I have made up my mind. Brother Yingji, don't try to persuade me anymore." Yingji said helplessly, "Listen to what Brother Qin said, if there is any danger during the test, we must stop it immediately." Qin Buyi asked, "Brother Yingji, what are these 3 rounds of tests?" Yingji answered, "The college will send 3 senior instructors to launch a will battle against you. If you can win the round-robin competition between the 3 senior instructors of the college, you will pass." After a pause, Yingji said, "There are a total of 8 senior instructors in the academy, and each of them is in the realm of transcending tribulation. Those old stubborn men in the academy are deliberately trying to embarrass you because they see that your cultivation level is in the combined realm. I'm afraid there are many dangers involved. It's too common for one party to accidentally kill the other party during the competition. So, Brother Qin, think twice." Qin Buyi's eyes flashed with murderous intent and said, "If they want to kill me, they have to consider whether they have the ability." Just as Yingji and Qin Buyi were talking, Nan Tianlong walked in from the outside and reported, "Young master, the matter has been dealt with." Yingji nodded to indicate that he understood. Nan Tianlong stood aside and looked Qin Buyi up and down curiously. From the message Yingji sent him, he already knew Qin Buyi's current cultivation level and combat power, including the fact that Qin Buyi annihilated the Luoxing mountain range with 1 sword. When he actually saw Qin Buyi, Nan Tianlong still couldn't restrain his surprise. "Long time no see. Congratulations to Mr. Qin for his great improvement." Nan Tianlong cupped his hands and said to Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi looked at the former city lord of the Sunset Star Mountain Range and said in return, "The South City Lord is polite. Young master and Mr. Qin are chatting first, and I'm going to prepare the banquet." Nan Tianlong saw that Yingji and Qin Buyi had something to say, so he found a reason and stepped back knowingly. At night, the 3rd prince's mansion was brightly lit. The 3rd prince and Qin Buyi exchanged glasses and chatted at the banquet. Most of the time, the 3rd prince was talking, and Qin Buyi listened carefully. From the words of the 3rd prince, Qin Buyi had a slightly clearer understanding of this world. The Tianhuang realm is so huge that it is unimaginable, even for powerful people in the Mahayana realm. it would take almost a few decades to travel throughout the wilderness realm. According to legend, there are immortals in the center of the Tianhuang realm, and there is more than one. The Ming dynasty's location in the Tianhuang realm was relatively remote. Even so, if the strength of the Ming dynasty were on Blue Star, it could destroy Blue Star in an instant. From this, we can see the overall strength level of cultivators in the Tianhuang realm. The banquet was dispersed, and the guests and hosts enjoyed themselves. Qin Buyi, led by his maid, came to the courtyard arranged for him by Ying. The next morning, Qin Buyi woke up early, washed briefly, and waited in the courtyard. Not long after, Nan Tianlong appeared outside the courtyard and said, "Master Qin, the young master has invited me." Follow Nan Tianlong to Ying's residence. Ying said, "Brother Qin, yesterday I sent someone to Daming Academy to inform those stubborn old men that we should take the 3 rounds of tests. I thought the test would have to be scheduled for 3 days later, but I didn't expect students from Daming Academy to send a message this morning. It's better to choose a day than to hit it, and it's better to set the test today." Speaking of this, Ying said with anger on his face, "I didn't expect them to be so eager to attack you. It seems that they are determined to join Big Brother." Qin Buyi said calmly, "Brother Ying, when will the test start?" Ying said, "There is still 1 hour." Qin Buyi said, "Then let's set off." Ying looked at Qin Buyi in surprise and said, "Brother Qin, aren't you ready?" Qin Buyi shook his head and said, "It's just a bunch of chickens and dogs, no need to prepare." Seeing that Qin Buyi was so confident, Ying's heart, which had been hanging in the air, felt a little relieved. He walked forward, patted Qin Buyi on the shoulder and said, "Brother Qin is right, they are just a bunch of chickens and dogs. Come on, let's go." Nan Tianlong looked at the two of them speechlessly, and couldn't help but cursed in his heart. "In the entire Ming dynasty, you two are the only ones who dare to call the Tribulation realm a country chicken and a dog." Seeing the two people leaving, Nan Tianlong, who was standing there, quickly caught up with them. At the same time, in the eldest prince's mansion, the eldest prince Ying was looking at the 2 pieces of information in front of him. One copy was sent by Huang Yan, the new city lord of Qingyang City. It recorded Qin Buyi's annihilation of the Luoxing Mountains with 1 sword and his close relationship with the 3rd Prince Ying. Put down the information Huang Yan sent and picked up another piece of information. The second piece of information was sent by Daming Academy. It contained the time of the battle between the academy instructor and Qin Buyi and some flattering words, such as hoping that His Highness the Prince would come to watch Yun. When Ying saw a sentence in the information, he suddenly laughed. The words read like this: "Your Majesty, please rest assured, we will definitely let the people recommended by the 3rd Prince die without a burial place." Ying called the guards outside and said, "Let's go to Daming Academy." The guard said respectfully, "Yes." The eldest Prince Ying has not ascended the throne yet, but some of the words used are basically the same as those used when he ascended the throne. Daming College. Ying and his entourage entered Daming College. The leaders were Ying and Qin Buyi, followed by Nan Tianlong and the guards. Entering the martial arts performance hall of Daming Academy, a group of people took their seats. At this time an old man fell from the sky. When he came to Ying's side, he gave a slight salute to Ying and said, "It's really brilliant that His Highness the 3rd Prince can come here." Ying said angrily, "Dean Wang, stop talking nonsense. If you hadn't pushed me so hard, why would I have come here?" That being pointed out directly by Ying without any reservation, Dean Wang was not angry and said with a smile, "Your Highness, 3rd Prince, please don't be angry. Everything must be done according to the rules." Ying sneered, "Rules? What rules? Why didn't I know there were such rules? When eldest brother came to recommend others, why didn't Dean Wang mention the rules?" Dean Wang was a little confused, so he had to change the topic, looked at Qin Buyi and said, "Compared to this is the young hero recommended by the 3rd Prince. It is true that a hero comes from a young age. He has broken through to the fusion realm at such a young age. His future is limitless." After saying that, Dean Wang stretched out his hand, ready to shake hands with Qin Buyi. Snapped, with a crisp sound, Ying retracted his palm. Chapter 97 Rules of Competition Until Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just now, Yingji reached out and knocked away Din Wang's outstretched hand. When Din Wang saw that Yingji didn't give him face, he was speechless and stayed here, turned around and left. After Din Wang left, Yingji introduced to Qin Buyi, the person just now is Wang Qingfeng, one of the 3 deans of Daming Academy. His cultivation has reached the middle stage of Mahayana. Even my father is polite to him. I didn't expect that now I would accept the olive branch from my eldest brother. Qin Buyi looked at Wang Qingfeng's disappearing back and said, in the middle stage of Mahayana, the strength is indeed unfathomable. Qin Buyi felt an extreme danger in Wang Qingfeng, as if the mountain would collapse and the earth would fall apart if this person made a move. While Qin Buyi and his party were waiting, a group of people appeared again in the martial arts arena. When Yingji saw the group of people appearing, his eyes shrank, and then he turned his head. Nan Tianlong pointed at this group of people and explained to Qin Buyi, Master Qin, this is the power of the eldest prince to win over the enemy. Qin Buyi looked at the other party with curiosity. The eldest prince's face that should have been sunny was filled with gloom. Seeing that Yingji ignored him, Yingye arranged for the people behind him to sit down. Then he came to Qin Buyi's side alone, looked at Yingji and said with a smile, "Third brother, long time no see." Yingji snorted and said nothing. Yingye looked gentle but actually said sarcastically, "Third brother, you don't say anything when you see your elder brother. No wonder the people who originally supported you are now switching to others." Yingji sneered and said, "Brother, why bother talking about switching to someone else? Just say switching to you, wouldn't it be enough?" Yingye didn't expect Yingji to be so direct. Although he was a little surprised, there was no embarrassment on his face and he said, "Birds choose good trees to roost in, and so do humans." Yingye looked at Qin Buyi next to Yingji and said, "Compared to this young master, he is the one who will be tested next." Thinking of Qin Buyi's cultivation and combat prowess, a hint of love for talent arose in his ambition to win, and he said, "With your age and cultivation, you will have a bright future. Why do you need to stay on a sinking ship? When the ship sinks, I'm afraid the young master will not be spared either. Why don't you come to my place? I guarantee that the young master will prosper in the future. He will get wind and rain whenever he wants." Seeing Yingyi poaching so blatantly, Yingji's eyes were full of anger and he said in a low voice, "Brother, I'm afraid it's inappropriate to be so blatant." Yingye sneered and said, "Third brother, what's inappropriate? I'm trying to persuade this young master to abandon the dark side and turn to the bright side. Isn't it wrong?" Yingji stood up and said angrily, "You." Before Yingji finished speaking, Qin Buyi stood up, looked at the eldest prince Yingyi and said, "Why don't His Highness the eldest prince join the service of brother Yingji? I think this can be regarded as a kind of abandonment of darkness." When Yingye heard what Qin Buyi said, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes, and he snorted coldly. "Since you are so disrespectful, don't blame me." After saying that, Yingye turned around and returned to his seat to sit down. Seeing Qin Buyi ruining Yingye's reputation, he rejected all the promises Yingyi made. Yingji was a little moved in his heart, looked at Qin Buyi and said, "Brother Qin." Qin Buyi said, "You and I have met each other, so there is no need to say more." Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was time for the test to begin. At this time, the venue was already filled with students and teachers watching. Wang Qingfeng walked up to the ring, looked at both sides, and said, "This time is to test whether little Qin Buyi is qualified to become the senior tutor of our Daming Academy. Test rules: Qin Buyi challenges 3 senior instructors in a row and wins all of them, which means he has passed." Having said this, Wang Qingfeng looked at Qin Buyi with seeming concern and said, "Swords have no eyes in the competition, so in this game, you can't kill and you can't admit defeat. You have to fight until the opponent loses his fighting power. The purpose is to make each other go all out." As soon as Wang Qingfeng said these words, it was like a pot was exploding. You can't stop killing and you can't admit defeat. What's the difference between this and a life-and-death battle? I didn't expect the test rules to be so cruel. I heard that the challenger Qin Buyi only has the cultivation level of the fusion realm. What? The cultivation level of the fusion realm? Our college's senior instructors are at the early stage of transcending the tribulation at the lowest level. How can we fight if they are only one level apart? Oh my God, it's simply unbelievable. Combining to fight to overcome the tribulation is under such cruel rules. This isn't a fight, it's just a matter of death. When Yingji heard this, his face was very ugly. He never expected that Wang Qingfeng would do something like this. Turning his head to look at Yingyi, he found that Yingyi was also looking at him, with a smile on his face that showed he had control of the situation. Yingji clenched his fists, stood up, looked at Wang Qingfeng and asked. Dean Wang, isn't this a bit too much? Wang Qingfeng pretended to be surprised and said, excessive. I don't think it's too much. Our senior tutor of Daming Academy cannot just be a human being or a ghost. So, of course, the test must be stricter. If you feel that you are defeated, it is too late to admit defeat now. Wang Qingfeng's words can be said to be putting Yingji on the fire. If we admit defeat at this moment, the prestige of Yingji will be greatly weakened, but if he doesn't admit defeat, under this rule, the other party obviously has no intention of letting Qin Buyi get out alive. Yingji thought about it and said in a hoarse voice, we agree. Before he finished speaking, Qin Buyi held down Yingji and said at the same time, I accept the challenge. I would like to ask Dean Wang, who will judge whether the opponent has lost combat effectiveness. That Wang Qingfeng said matter-of-factly, of course it's up to me. Do you doubt my fairness? Upon hearing this, Qin Buyi immediately understood what Wang Qingfeng meant. The other party had two preparations. If you are too strong, the other party will immediately announce that the senior tutor of the college has given up. If you are seriously injured, the opponent may not let you leave until you are killed. Qin Buyi frowned slightly and said, it's up to Dean Wang to judge. I'm afraid there's something wrong with this. It's better to change it. Wang Qingfeng said in a bad tone, could it be that you doubt my fairness? Yingji said without mercy at this time, I just doubt your fairness. Wang Qingfeng's face turned blue when he saw Yingji talking, but he couldn't get angry in front of him, so he had to say, how do you want to change this rule, little friend Qin Buyi? Qin Buyi said, it would be better for Dean Wang, brother Yingji, and the eldest prince to judge together. As soon as he finished speaking, the eldest prince Yingye below said with great interest, what kind of joint judgment method? Qin Buyi continued, as long as one of these three people disagrees with the termination of the battle must continue. Until one party is completely dead. The eldest prince Yingye said, what a great idea. I'm sure. What do you think of Dean Wang's approval? Chapter 98 A Bet of 1 Low-Grade Spiritual Stones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang Qingfeng was reluctant at first, but when he saw the eldest prince, he opened his mouth. It was not easy to refute the eldest prince's face, so he had to agree and said, as the eldest prince said, everything will be listened to by the eldest prince. Yingji whispered to Qin Buyi beside him, brother Qin, are you really sure about this battle? Qin Buyi nodded and said, no matter what happens in the ring, please don't agree to stop fighting, please Yingji. Seeing Qin Buyi's confident look, Yingji sat on the chair and said, okay, I will fully cooperate with brother Qin. Qin Buyi turned to the eldest prince Yingye and said, first prince, it would be too boring to continue fighting like this, why not add a little bonus? Yingye looked at Qin Buyi with a playful look on his face and said, how to add it? Qin Buyi said, how about this? There are 3 battles in total. If I win each battle, the eldest prince will lose 1,000 million low-grade spiritual stones to me. On the other hand, if I lose, I will lose 1,000 million low-grade spiritual stones to the eldest prince. At the same time, a message was secretly sent to Yingji, brother Yingji, please lend me 1,000 million low-grade spiritual stones later. The reason why he asked Yingji to borrow spirit stones was entirely because most of Qin Buyi's valuables had been converted into attribute points and he was penniless. Yingji agreed immediately without even thinking about it, brother Qin, the spiritual stone is not a problem, it's easy to talk about. Yingye held his chin with his right hand, stretched out a finger with his left hand and said, 10 million low-grade spiritual stones are too stingy. If you want to play, just play bigger. How about 1,000 million? Before Qin Buyi could speak, Yingji sarcastically said, brother, 2,000 million is too stingy. I make the decision for brother Qin, double it to 4,000 million. The expression on the eldest prince's face was condensed. He didn't expect that Yingji would directly make such a move. After a slight hesitation, the eldest prince said, "Okay," as the third brother said, 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones will be used as the lottery. Qin Buyi didn't expect that Yingji would make such a sacrifice, and was about to say, "Brother Yingji." Before Qin Buyi could finish his words, Yingji said directly, "Brother Qin, I believe you, isn't it just 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones for each battle? I am willing to sacrifice it just to control the arrogance of my elder brother. Brother Qin, if we lose, we won't lose the battle. Even if we lose, at worst, everyone in my third prince's house will have to save food and clothing for a period of time, and we will be able to save these low-grade spiritual stones." Yingji seemed to have said it easily, but Qin Buyi knew that if he really lost so many low-grade spiritual stones, the next days for Yingji will definitely be difficult. Not only will all expenses be significantly reduced, but even the efforts to cultivate the power of his subordinates will be tight. The surrounding students and teachers heard that the eldest prince and the third prince had made such a big bet, and they all whispered to each other, "What a big deal, 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones in one battle. After 3 battles, there are 2,000 million low-grade spiritual stones, which can be converted into mid-grade spiritual stones to be 200 million mid-grade spiritual stones. If it were replaced by high-grade spiritual stones, it would be 120 million high-grade spiritual stones. It is absolutely generous. When can I have so many spiritual stones? A total of 2,000 million. If I have so many spiritual stones, I will marry 10 wives." Wang Qingfeng was also shocked by the generosity of the 2 princes in the ring. You must know that the annual funding of Daming Academy is just over 2,000 million high-grade spiritual stones. Once Yingji and Yingye took action, it was equivalent to spending 1/20th of the annual funding of Daming Academy. Qin Buyi looked at Wang Qingfeng and said, "Wouldn't Dean Wang join us to add some luck and have a good time together?" Wang Qingfeng showed a hint of embarrassment and disappeared, saying, "Little friend Qin Buyi, you are joking. How can I have so many low-grade spiritual stones?" Qin Buyi didn't believe Wang Qingfeng's statement that he didn't have so many spiritual stones. As a practitioner of the Mahayana realm, he is embarrassed to say that he is a Mahayana realm practitioner with an average asset of less than million low-grade spiritual stones. What's more, as one of the 3 deans of Daming Academy, Wang Qingfeng conservatively estimates that he must have at least several hundred million low-grade spiritual stones in his hands. Wang Qingfeng looked at Yingji and Yingyi and said, "Your Highnesses, do you have any objections to this competition in the ring?" The 2 shook their heads to express that they had no objections. Wang Qingfeng said, "Since there is no objection, the battle begins now. The challenger Qin Buyi will be invited to take the stage next." Qin Buyi flew to the ring and stood on one side of the ring. Wang Qingfeng continued, "The first senior instructor sent by our Daming Academy is Instructor Sohu from the early stage of the Tribulation Realm. Instructor Sohu is invited to appear next." After Wang Qingfeng finished speaking, a man in black clothes with a blindfold on one eye flew up from the stage. After Sohu came up, he saluted Wang Qingfeng, turned to look at Qin Buyi and said, "I am the senior tutor of Daming Academy, and not just any cat or dog can come in. A mere middle-level practitioner of the fusion realm dares to dream of becoming a senior mentor." "Are you dreaming?" Qin Buyi said calmly. "Are Mao and Agu talking about yourself? In my eyes, you are just a chicken and a dog. Even a dog like you can become a senior mentor. Why shouldn't I?" Sohu's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he said, "What a sharp-tongued boy. I hope you can still be so sharp-tongued when you're crawling and struggling on the ground later." Qin Buyi raised the corner of his mouth, looked at Sohu with cold eyes and said, "Too much nonsense, my subordinates will see the truth." Sohu showed a cruel smile on his face and said, "Boy, I will break your bones piece by piece later and let you die in pain." Even before the battle began, the arena was already filled with a tense atmosphere. The onlookers below looked up attentively. For them, fighting at this level was very rare. What's more, it's the fusion realm that challenges 3 people in the tribulation realm in a row. This kind of battle with a huge difference in realm is extremely rare. Teacher Sohu is so handsome and manly. Isn't this nonsense? Instructor Sohu is the last one selected among the 8 senior instructors in the academy. He must have something real in his hands. The kid on the stage is miserable. Let's guess how long it will take for him to be beaten to death by Instructor Sohu. If you dare to challenge the Tribulation Realm with the Fusion Realm, you must have some trump cards. I estimate that I will have to survive more than a dozen rounds. Ha, you think highly of him. I bet that within 3 rounds, this kid will be kneeling on the ground begging Master Sohu not to kill him. What if you lose the bet? If I lose the bet, I will give you 1,000 lower-grade spiritual stones. If you lose, you will give me 1,000 lower-grade spiritual stones. Wang Qingfeng looked at the 2 people on the stage who were at war with each other and the expectant eyes of the crowd below the stage, and stopped talking nonsense. He announced directly, the first round of competition has officially begun. Chapter 99 8 Fang Baihu Lai, Desperate Sohu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Wang Qingfeng finished speaking, Sohu took the lead in attacking and said to Qin Buyi with murderous intent, "Boy, standing on this stage will be the worst decision you have ever made." Tiger Sword Mountain. Sohu drew his machete and slashed at Qin Buyi. Yellow light lingered on the blade, and a golden tiger jumped out of it and pounced on Qin Buyi. Chong. The killing blade was instantly unsheathed, and Qin Buyi charged forward. Killing and slaughtering. The high-speed vibrating killing blade struck the golden tiger first. Roar. The golden tiger roared, opened its mouth, and bit Qin Buyi with its sharp teeth. Chong. The killing blade collided with the golden tiger's teeth, and the sharp killing blade instantly cut off all the golden tiger's teeth. The castration force continued unabated, and the killing blade slashed across the golden tiger's head. Laugh. The golden tiger's head detached from the body, and the body composed of spiritual energy exploded in all directions with a bang. At this time, Sohu's sword also arrived, and Qin Buyi raised his killing blade to block it. Chong. The 2 knives collided, sparks flying, a huge force came from the killing blade, and Qin Buyi took 3 steps back before completely removing the force. Sohu sneered, "With this little ability, you dare to challenge the Tribulation Realm? Boy, today is your day of death." After saying that, Sohu attacked again. Tiger blades twin white tigers. White light condensed on the machete, and 2 majestic white tigers jumped out of it, one on the left and one on the right surrounded Qin Buyi, while Sohu held a machete between the 2 tigers and attacked Qin Buyi. Attacks from 3 directions are inevitable. Qin Buyi tightened his grip on the killing blade and shouted, "Killing, killing." A full moon rose on the ring, covering the 2 white tigers and the Sohu in the middle. Countless shadows of killing blades emerged from the full moon and attacked the 2 white tigers and Sohu. Chong! 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 Attacks from all directions forced Sohu to stop and had to defend himself with a machete. The 2 white tigers were stabbed into sieves by countless phantoms of killing blades, and then turned into spiritual energy again and dissipated between heaven and earth. The full moon dispersed, leaving Sohu unscathed. Sohu sneered, "Stop showing off such embarrassing tricks. Let me see what you are really capable of." Of course, the premise is that you have real ability, but looking at you like this, it's nothing more than that. Qin Buyi pointed the killing blade at Sohu and said, "As you wish." Killing creatures and killing immortals. The killing blade exudes a powerful aura and a sense of oppression. Zhang. The blade of the killing blade made a slight sound. After the sound of the sword, the whole body of the sword turned black. Sohu secretly thought, "This is not good." From Qin Buyi's attack in front of him, he felt a strong danger. If he didn't pay attention, he might die. Wang Qingfeng had already come to the audience and sat with the eldest Prince Yi. Looking at this sword, Wang Qingfeng's eyes showed surprise, and he said in his heart, "What a domineering sword technique, it can actually make the fusion realm burst out with an attack that transcends the tribulation realm." Ying also saw how extraordinary this sword was and asked Wang Qingfeng, "Dean Wang, do you recognize this sword technique?" Wang Qingfeng shook his head and said he didn't know. Ying continued to ask, "Does our Daming Academy have similar sword skills that are comparable to this one?" Wang Qingfeng said truthfully, back to the eldest prince, there is no sword technique comparable to this sword in the academy. This sword technique is extremely domineering, and its level is unimaginably high. After a pause, Wang Qingfeng continued, although there is no comparable sword technique, the last move of the 3 lives sword technique, one of the main techniques of my Daming Academy, is as powerful as this one. On Yingji's side, Nan Tianlong looked at Qin Buyi on the ring with a shocked expression. Young master, this sword executed by Mr. Qin is incredible. Yingji echoed, yes, even I have to be careful to deal with this sword. In the ring, Qin Buyi held the killing blade and struck Sohu with all his strength. A jet-black blade flew out of the killing blade and killed Sohu. The dark blade light quickly grew larger and wider in the air, covering the entire arena in the blink of an eye. The strong sense of oppression on the dark sword light spread to Sohu. Sohu wanted to turn around and run away at this moment. But the arena was already covered by the dark sword light. If he wanted to escape, he would have to jump off the ring. Once you jump off the stage, the meaning is self-evident. What's more, if he jumps off the ring in front of everyone, his future for the rest of his life will basically be ruined. Sohu had no choice but to avoid the attack of the dark sword light. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and face the attack of the dark sword light and shouted. Tiger saber, 8 directions, white tiger fierce. The machete in Sohu's hand erupted with white light again. Roar! Roar! Ho! Bursts of tiger roars came from it, and 8 white tigers with dazzling white eyes jumped out, stand in 8 directions and firmly protect Sohu in the center. Sohu held the knife in his right hand, aimed his left hand at the blade, and shouted, lie! 8 white hanging-necked white tigers suddenly burst into flames, and even the tigers' eyes were filled with flames. Under the stage, Wang Qingfeng saw this scene and said to the eldest prince Ying, this is Sohu's move to suppress the bottom of the box. Could it be that the pressure Qin Buyi put on him in the ring has reached a state where he needs to fight hard, that if Sohu knew what Wang Qingfeng said, he would definitely let him stand in front of the dark sword light and experience it himself. Without personal experience, you will never be able to feel the oppression and danger brought by the dark sword light. Ying asked Wang Qingfeng, do you think there is a chance that Sohu can hold on under this knife? That when Wang Qingfeng was asked this question by Ying, his face showed bitterness and he replied, the probability is less than %. Ying murmured, 30%. Why do I think it's not even %? That how could Wang Qingfeng, a strong man in the Mahayana realm, fail to see that Sohu couldn't withstand this sword? The reason why I say %, probability is just for my own face. After all, I send people out by myself. At this time, Ying directly challenged him, and Wang Qingfeng looked embarrassed and stopped talking. At this time, on the arena, the pitch-black sword light covering the entire arena collided with the 8 white tigers released by Sohu. Bang! 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 The 8 eye-catching white tigers whose bodies were burning with flames were dispersed by the terrifying and devastating attack in an instant, and they did not last even a second. The aura of the dark sword light did not diminish at all, and fell on Sohu's body. As early as when the 8 eye-catching white tigers were scattered, Sohu already showed a look of despair. At this time, the light of the sword fell on him, and Sohu had no other choice but to lift the machete for a meager defense. Chong. Laugh. Chapter 100 Kill Suohu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The jet-black blade flashed across Sohu's body, and flew towards the crowd below the ring without losing momentum. The students and teachers who were watching saw such a terrifying attack coming towards them, which immediately caused a commotion. Wang Qingfeng stood up and flew into the air, and his voice rang in the ears of all the students and teachers who were watching. Don't panic. The arena is equipped with protective devices. If the attack intensity is less than the Mahayana realm, it will not break through the arena's defense. Sure enough, when the dark sword light attacked the edge of the ring, ripples appeared on the edge of the ring, as if a cover had been buckled. The dark blade light hit the ripples and dissipated in a few breaths. After the dark sword light dissipated, everyone looked towards the ring. Qin Buyi was the only one left in the arena, and Sohu's figure had long since disappeared. Only a pool of blood was left on the spot as if to prove Sohu's past existence. When Wang Qingfeng saw this scene, A trace of heartache and anger flashed in his eyes. What is heartbreaking is that Suohu's death means that from now on, only 7 of the 8 senior tutors of Daming Academy will be left. The resources required to cultivate a person who has overcome the Calamity Realm are an astronomical figure, but now that he is dead like this, how can he not make Wang Qingfeng angry? Qin Buyi stood on the ring, looked at Wang Qingfeng in mid-air and said calmly, Dean Wang, can the result of this first battle be announced? Wang Qingfeng fell from mid-air to the ring with a bad expression and said, the first winner is Qin Buyi. At the same time, Wang Qingfeng sent a message to Qin Buyi, I didn't expect that at such a young age, he would be so cruel and ruthless. How is this different from the devil's behavior? Qin Buyi was immediately happy when he heard this. He looked at Wang Qingfeng with a strange expression and said, is it okay for him to kill me, but not for me to kill him? Dean Wang, this is an eye-opener for me. This also made Qin Buyi couldn't help but sigh in his heart as a saying spread in Blue Star, when I reason with you, you act like a hooligan with me, and when I act like a rogue with you, you actually start to reason with me. Wang Qingfeng snorted coldly, ignored Qin Buyi, and said to everyone, the second round of fighting will begin in half an hour. After saying that, Wang Qingfeng flew down from the ring and came to the side of the eldest prince Ying. After Wang Qingfeng finished speaking, a sound like a frying pan sounded from below. Did I read that right just now? The man named Qin Buyi actually killed instructor Sohu. I think this must be a dream. It's so dreamy. How is it possible? Teacher Sohu couldn't even resist a single blow, and a master in the early stages of the Tribulation Realm died like this. Hey, where is that brother who just made a bet that Qin Buyi couldn't last 3 rounds? From the very beginning, I knew that the man named Qin Buyi could win. Without 2 brushes in his hand, how dare he practice Su to challenge 3 people in the Tribulation Realm? Listening to the discussions of students and teachers, Wang Qingfeng's face turned blue and white. He sent the person out, and now he died in the ring, and he had an inescapable relationship with him. What made Wang Qingfeng most uncomfortable was the disappointed look on Ying's face next to him. Ying, Dean Wang, is this the must-kill you told me? Wang Qingfeng hurriedly explained, First Prince, I made a mistake in hiring people in the first round. In the second round, I will send out Sha Jian who is in the late stage of Tribulation Realm. Qin Buyi will definitely be killed this time, please rest assured, eldest prince. Ying didn't say anything else on this matter, and instead looked at Qin Buyi, who seemed to have little energy in the ring, and said, such a powerful and domineering sword technique should have serious side effects, but it doesn't look like he has any side effects. Can Daming Academy's 3-life sword technique also achieve this effect? Wang Qingfeng did not dare to hide anything, and shook his head and said, back to the eldest prince, after the last move of the 3-life sword technique is used, the user will lose strength at the slightest, and even lose combat effectiveness in severe cases. Ying asked calmly, such a domineering sword technique is right in front of you, aren't you tempted, Dean Wang? Upon hearing Ying's question, Wang Qingfeng said thoughtfully, First Prince, you mean? Before he finished speaking, Ying interrupted, just understand it yourself. I hope that in the near future, Daming Academy will have another set of domineering sword skills. Wang Qingfeng said, this is not easy to handle. He will definitely not hand over such a powerful sword technique voluntarily. Ying, then it depends on Dean Wang's methods. I only need sword skills and nothing else. When Wang Qingfeng heard this, he understood what Ying meant, and said quickly, I know, after the second round of Sha's sword kills him, I will immediately search for his soul. Just as Wang Qingfeng and Ying were talking, Qin Buyi's voice came from the ring, did the eldest prince forget something? The expression on Ying's face froze, then he took out a space ring from his arms and threw it to Qin Buyi and said, it's just 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones, how can I refuse to pay for it? Qin Buyi stretched out his hand to grab the space ring thrown by Ying, and penetrated it with his spiritual thoughts. After taking stock, the 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones were exactly the same. Qin Buyi said, okay, the eldest prince is indeed the one who keeps his promise. Qin Buyi left the ring and came to Ying's side. Ying saw a smile on Qin Buyi's face and said, congratulations to brother Qin for winning the first round. After Qin Buyi won the first round, Ying saw the ugly expression on Wang Qingfeng's face, and Ying, who seems calm on the surface but actually hides anger in his heart, is as refreshing as drinking a glass of iced sour plum soup in the summer. Qin Buyi took out 2,000 million low-grade spiritual stones and put them into the system storage space. He handed the space ring with 2,000 million low-grade spiritual stones left to Ying and said, "Thank you, brother Ying, for plundering the formation for me. Without brother Ying's spiritual stone as a guarantee, how could I have received such a huge sum of money? Therefore, half of the 4,000 million low-grade spiritual stones will be given to brother Ying." Qin Buyi reached halfway and was blocked by Ying. Ying said sincerely, "Brother Qin, you and I are friends. We are brothers, so there is no need to be so polite. Brother Qin accepts all these spiritual stones. Don't refuse them again." Ying looked determined, so Qin Buyi had no choice but to take back his hand. Ying continued to urge, "Brother Qin, if you win the first game, Wang Qingfeng will definitely not let you win the second game easily. You have to be careful." Qin Buyi, "Thank you, brother Ying, for reminding me. I'll take a rest and recover my strength." Ying said quickly, "The first round of fighting consumes a lot of physical strength. We should seize the time to recover our physical strength. I will protect brother Qin." Said to be a protector, in fact, he was sitting next to Qin Buyi and admiring the ugly expressions of Wang Qingfeng and Ying in the distance. Having fought against Ying for a long time, Ying can be said to be the person who understands Ying best in the world besides Ying himself. Ying looks calm now, but in fact he must be very angry inside. Ying said with some secret joy in his heart,